What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 and either build them or fix them depending on how they rank. Now today is an exciting day as we somewhat delve into some homebrew territory. This is going to be an exciting one as a lot of people may or may not be aware whether or not this exists or whether or not this is any good, but today we're talking about the Blood Wizard by Matt Mercer, introduced in the Tal'Dorei books, and I'm excited to be back in the Matt Mercer realm. We haven't talked about any of his stuff in a hot minute. It's going to be a fun one though, and I'm really looking forward to it. If you are as well, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Also, of course, make sure to share the video with your friends and click the bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded. So this is a very weird take on the wizard. You know, Matt Mercer always has weird directions that he takes most of his subclasses. You know, we already have a blood cleric. There, of course, is the blighted druid, which is also pretty dark. And then here we have the blood wizard. I don't know. Matt might need some therapy or something. There's something's going on. I don't know. But I've covered a lot of these on the channel before. I've actually covered everything else from the Tal'Dorei Campaign book Reborn, and this is the last one. So I'm excited to be finishing up talking about all of those because they are a little on the different side. And while a lot of his stuff has been super broken, is this going to be broken as well? We're going to find that out after a word from today's sponsor. If you are looking for a great gift this upcoming Christmas season, then the Wandering Tavern by Homie and the Dude is the perfect one for the TTRPG lover. This system-agnostic setting features 15 floors and 23 unique locations for you to explore on a massive airship. Interact with the various factions to learn all of the mysteries held within this vessel. Learn recipes for unique benefits and even compete in a bake-off. If you like the work of Studio Ghibli, then this is absolutely the one for you. Learn more with the link below and use code DAPPER10 to receive 10% off at checkout. And of course, by doing so, you will be supporting my channel. Thank you again to Homie and the Dude for supporting the channel, and let's get back to the video. Kicking us off at level 2, we have blood channeling. That's right. We are using our blood to cast our spells, and I don't know why you would have possibly expected anything different, but here's how it works. So with this, whenever we are at half our hit point maximum or below, we actually do not need to use an arcane focus because it can just be us. In addition to that, whenever we're casting a wizard spell that has a costly material component, we can forego that component by taking 1d10 necrotic damage per 50 gold pieces of the cost of the component. This damage cannot be reduced in any way, and if it reduces you to 0 hit points, the spell does fail, but you also do not expend the spell slot. Now this is kind of a wild one, honestly, because there are a lot of spells out there that require some very, very specific components that are costly, right? Wizards do not get access to a lot of your reviving spells, which is a little unfortunate. So like Revivify, not really a thing that most wizards are going to get outside of maybe a specific race that you take. But there are tons of them. But to me, what comes to mind is if I've got enough HP to spare, something like Simulacrum might be something I'm thinking about that has very costly hit components to it. You know, maybe it's not worth the cost though, because that's the only other thing that I'm thinking about here. We are famously low on hit points for pretty much all of the time. There's nothing here that is going to increase our hit points, and we're taking hit points away. We have a D6 hit die. Our hit points are garbage, and so this is going to be a little bit limited in how much we can actually do this. For the most part, we're probably going to be sticking to spells that do not require these costly components. But who knows, maybe this will come in clutch when it's something very specific. Like I said, there are some very specific components that come along with certain things, and it might just be best to wait until a time where you've got a lot of HP and you don't want to have to go and look for some very specific dragon scale or some very specific idol that looks like some animal or whatever it happens to be. Maybe you just want to go ahead and cast the spell, and this might just give you a way to do it. You know, a lot of the risk is taken away as long as you've got friends nearby to get you back up if it does knock you out. But still, I don't know. This is kind of a mixed bag for me. I don't think it's all that broken, just because 50 gold pieces really isn't all that much in the grand scheme of especially higher level spells that require these. You know, you can get into a ton of damage at that point, which could even take you down from full depending on what you've rolled on your hit dice. So yeah, definitely not the most broken thing, but definitely could add a little bit of versatility. So I won't necessarily say that it's bad. For this, I will give this a 6 out of 10. I don't think it's bad. I think it gives us another mode, which is nice. We can have our hands free whenever we're casting spells when we're below our half of our hit point maximum, which is fine. I think that's more of a flavor piece than anything, but oh well. More so what I'm looking at is the costly spell components, and like I said, depending on the spell, this may or may not be worth it, depending on how much HP you have, depending on what you've rolled on your hit die all the way up to this point, which is only a d6, so it's not that great. So I don't know, it just depends on a lot of different things, so I would consider this to be far from consistent. At level 2, we also get Sanguine Burst, which can help us with our damage rolls. Definitely could be nice. So with this, whenever we cast a spell that is leveled, so first level or higher, we can choose to take necrotic damage equal to the spell's level and re-roll a number of damage dice up to our intelligence modifier. This damage again cannot be reduced in any way, and we must use whatever the new rolls are. Now, this is a little bit more useful to me. This definitely resembles something the sorcerer gets for, not a cost of taking damage. It's more for a sorcery point. So for that, to me, it's a little bit better of a cost, just because you can get these sorcerer points back a little bit more reliably than you can hit points, and it doesn't cause you to possibly die or at least go down because of it. So to me, I think the meta magic option that allows you to do this is probably a little bit better, but either way, this is not necessarily the worst thing. We just take necrotic damage equal to whatever the level of the spell is, which isn't too bad, right? So for a fireball, we can reroll up to 5 of those d6s, depending if we have a maxed out intelligence. That's not a bad cost, to be honest, at really high level. That's really not too bad. So to me, I think the return is generally going to be worth it, at least for lower level spells. At higher level spells, you're gonna have to think about it, but it's very possible, right? Now, it's also entirely possible that you just roll the same thing, or maybe worse than what you rolled before. That's also possible, probably unlikely depending on which ones you're re-rolling, but it's certainly possible. For that reason, I think this again is going to give me a 6 out of 10. It is certainly not the worst thing, but again, we're taking away HP for a reasonable benefit, I would say. But still, we're so limited on hit points on this, it makes it a little tough. At level 6, we get Bond of Mutual Suffering. So if you want to hurt us, we're going to hurt you back. So with this, whenever we do take damage from an attack, we can use our reaction to deal that same damage back to the creature that attacked us. It just has the requirement that we can see the creature. It does not have to be a melee attack, and this does fail on constructs or undead. We get to use this one time per rest until level 14, when we can use it twice per rest. This is okay. On something like this, honestly, I'm looking for a way to prevent damage from coming in because I'm already taking damage from some of my other features. This is just saying if you take damage, you get to deal it back, right? Our AC is probably terrible. Our saving throws are probably not the best, seeing how intelligence is our focus, and there is hardly anything out there that's going to force an intelligence save. So yeah, the damage we're taking is probably not great, at least for us. It's probably very good for our opponents. And that can cause some issues here, right? We do have to use our reaction, so we have to survive the hit. We can't go down and do this at the same time. So this is tough. The restriction on constructs and undead, I don't think is terrible. It's as if you're attacking the blood that is within the creature. So that makes sense, and I'm not really that upset about that. only once per day is rough, or once per rest rather, is a little tough. That's not much. And for a feature that's really not that broken because it doesn't reduce the damage in any way, I don't know that I'm necessarily all that excited about this. Again, I think this is a 6 out of 10. Like, it's not useless, but again, it's something else that's saying we're taking damage, we're taking damage, we're taking damage. Wizards can't take that much damage. We have very low HP, and so the amount of beating that we can take is not that much. And this all relies on us either dealing damage to ourselves or taking damage from an outside source. And either way, we really aren't here for that as a wizard. At level 10, we get Glyph of Hemorrhaging, and maybe we'll turn some things around with this one. So when we cast a spell that deals damage to a creature, we can choose to curse that creature for 1 minute. While cursed, whenever that creature is hit by an attack, it takes 1d6 extra necrotic damage. At the end of each of its turns, it can make a con save against our spell saving throw DC, which would end the curse. We can do this once per rest, and again, undead and constructs are immune. Now, this is interesting because this is basically Hex/Hunter's Mark, but everybody gets it instead of it just being the user. That's not bad, right? This also does not cost us any HP. I definitely don't like at the end of each turn, the con save comes back, but with how much damage this could rack up, that could be interesting, because think about this. This is anytime you're hit it with an extra attack, right? So if your fighter is doing 2, 3, 4 attacks, if your paladin's doing 2 attacks, if there is a main attack and maybe a reactionary attack, anytime a creature is hit by an attack, right? Not once per turn, not once per round, it's once per attack, which could really add up over time, honestly. And a minute is plenty, to be honest. It's really good. Being able to do this once per short rest is definitely better than long rest, because I don't think that this is so OP that it needs to be a long rest feature. It is one creature, it's not a shotgun effect, unfortunately, but still, I don't think that this is that bad, to be honest. I think this is honestly an 8 out of 10. I think this feature is cool because we get to add a bunch of extra damage relying on our allies to do this. Now, the amount of usefulness we get, of course, is going to rely on how easily we can keep them from passing that con save. So maybe we need to try to debuff in some way. Constitution saving throws are generally pretty good on monsters, unfortunately, so we want to make sure that our intelligence is as high as possible and that we try to give it as little advantage in that case as possible as well. So definitely is a very cool feature. It being a con save is definitely what holds it back from being ranked higher, though. So overall, not terrible, not the best. It's pretty good. Finally, at level 14, we get Thicker Than Water, and this finally is a bit of a defensive feature. Maybe too little too late, but we'll see. So with this, whenever we regain hit points, whether it's a spell or magical effect, whatever it is, we can regain additional hit points equal to our proficiency bonus. On top of this, whenever we are concentrating on a spell, we have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage as long as it is non-magical. Now, this is kind of interesting and is good and bad in certain ways. So regaining extra hit points every time we're healed, that's always going to be a good thing, right? Especially since we probably are going to be the target of a lot of healing, because we are also the target of a lot of self-damaging things, and we are trying to get hit in order to be able to bounce that back with Bond of Mutual Suffering. So we probably will be targeted with some healing spells from the cleric or the druid or whoever is filling that role in your party. So this will definitely come up a lot. Now, it is just proficiency bonus, which is going to be 4, 5, 6 every time, but I mean, over time this could add up. I definitely think that it's a little low, especially at this level, but it is what it is. Extra healing is extra healing. The bigger one, though, to be thinking about is concentration on spell grants us resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing. Non-magical damage. The non-magical specification makes this a little tough. As I've talked about a million times on the channel, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage are like 90% of the damage in games. It comes up a lot, right? However, at level 14, it is reasonable to expect that a lot of enemies have magical items or magical abilities if it's some kind of natural weapon or whatever it happens to be. Those weapons are probably magical for this exact instance of getting around non-magical resistance. This makes it definitely a little more limited than what I would have liked. I would have preferred it just to have been bludgeoning, piercing, slashing damage, period, right? One level of Barbarian gets you blanket bludgeoning, piercing, slashing. Here we are 14 levels into Wizard that is dealing a ton of damage to itself, is taking damage on purpose in order to deal things back. And we can't even have bludgeoning, piercing, slashing to all weapons. Of course, this will come up. Of course, there will be non-magical attacks at this level, but I would say a lot of them are going to be magical for this exact instance. And for that, it definitely docks a couple of points. For this, I've got to go with another 8 out of 10. I don't think that this is the best thing out there. I don't think it's the worst. Being able to have extra hit points back is nice, and having the resistance to the bludgeoning, piercing, slashing is good. However, there is going to be plenty of magical out there, and of course, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more healing at this level, but it is what it is. So what do we think of the Blood Wizard? Now, first of all, before I rank anything, I've done this, it's been a while since I've talked about this, but the Matt Mercer stuff, I will not be fixing if it is not up to par, right? If it's made by somebody in homebrew, I'm just going to build it regardless. So there will be a build this week because I think it's insulting to, private creators like this. And two, I just think that most of you would much rather have a build than a fix on something that's homebrew. So that's what we're going to do. So this one is a bit tough for me because overall, it's kind of lackluster, right? You look at the Wizard, which is one of the least tanky things out there, with the least hit points out there, tied with the Sorcerer, and here we are taking from ourselves in order to gain some benefits. And honestly, most of the time, the benefits do not outweigh the cost. You have to consider that you're going to be taking damage here. You are going to be taking damage with Bond of Mutual Suffering. You have to take damage in order to use that feature. You have to deal self-damage in order to get the best benefits out of your early level features. And that just makes it a little more difficult. Glyph of Hemorrhaging, while the damage is good here, while that is nice, there is no debuff attached to it, and it is a con save, which is one of the worst ones to target on monsters. That's tough, right? I just think that at every single time we look at this, every single level, every instance that we get a subclass feature, it just falls flat. And I don't think that it is nearly as good as something like what we saw with the Blade Singer last week, like what we saw with the Abjurer in week 1 of this series. I just don't see this as being anywhere near what those are as a kit. So for all of that, my final ranking is going to come in at a 6 out of 10. This is a failing score, which is very out of the ordinary for Matt Mercer stuff. Normally Matt Mercer stuff is broken, but not this one, at least not in my opinion. If I am missing something, if you think that this is the most broken thing you've ever read in your life, by all means, let me know in the comments down below, but at least for me, I don't see it. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. We will be building one of these later this week, and I've got an exciting video for you on Saturday as well. So of course, this is coming up on Wednesday. Saturday will be a very exciting video for you, and then Sunday will be our builds as always. So until next time, stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.